Feel like in your garden, especially in fall, you just can't get on top of the pests. I mean, it's so frustrating. And the thing is each season, the different pests will rotate in and out, and not all treatments work. So we're gonna talk about combining treatments a little bit if we have to, but really we're gonna focus on our fall crops. I'll show you some damage and then basically how we treat it. See, that's the damage I'm talking about right there. It's frustrating. It's frustrating as all get out. But I also forgot to mention, we're gonna talk about recovering these plants as well. Before we do, good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to Sandy Bottom Homestead. Hope you're having an absolutely fantastic day. It is the fall season. It is a busy time. Fall is our second most busy time in the year just because we are planting basically the garden fully all over again for the third time in 1 year. And as of right now, the garden is completely planted. And this summer, we didn't really have a whole lot of pest pressure. It was actually pretty nice, but that changed. And I'm having pest pressure myself. Ever since that last storm, we were getting these giant mosquitoes. They're killing me. If you look at my garden, we've got mostly in the beds, it's all fall plantings. And then we have our Seminole pumpkin left over here, which is all of this. It's crazy. It just keeps going and going. And then we've got it back here too. And actually, we're gonna free up this bed a little bit from the Seminole pumpkin it's taken over. And we've also got I think it's a pepper plant and maybe I don't know what else. Something very small that I'm not overly concerned about. But the reason why I bring it up is because, you know, with what I have in my garden right now, typically I won't be fighting much summer pests. It's that weird season where we're transitioning over to fall and we're starting to get cool, but we still have hot days. I mean, I'm in coastal North Carolina, and as of right now, it is, I think it's 85 degrees. So it's pretty warm. But right now with the squash, we're really just fighting squash bugs, and I'm ultimately not too concerned. We're about 1 month out from our first frost, even though it doesn't seem like it. I'm all about treating, but there's an asterisk next to it, and if it doesn't need it, just don't do it. I mean, this plant right here, which is giant, it's gonna give up. You know what I mean? The frost is gonna kill it, so there's really no point in me spraying it consistently and staying on top of it. That being said, we do have our other crops that we do need to take care of because they are not gonna stop when our first frost comes. They're gonna keep going and going way past our frost, a month or two after our frost. So we need to stay on top of those. Now, if you're here about summer pests or anything, look, shoot some neem oil on it, mix it with a little bit of dish soap, and so that it'll combine and it'll bond together, and spray it and just get you 2 to 3 treatments of that and you're gonna be good to go. That's typically all I use. If I have like an absolutely terrible thing and I need to do like a nuclear wipeout, then I'll use pyrethrin. Both of those are organic. The pyrethrin is not selective, so it can harm your beneficial insects and stuff like that. That being said, when it comes down to this, I really only, well, I was gonna say I only fight one pest, but I do fight a couple, and I fight the cabbage mothworm and I fight snails. I don't have slugs here, thankfully, and the snails have gotten better, but I'll get to that in a few minutes. So this damage right here, I mean, this is just from the cabbage mothworm. They get on the leaves and then they just start chewing, and you know, typically you'll see little holes and then it'll graduate into this. This is not good. This will set the plant back dramatically. You know, there are ways to bring it back, which I will talk about in a few minutes, but we want to start to get on top of the pests like as soon as possible. I do think the pests are out to get me this year because as soon as I noticed the pests, we were getting rain. If you're gonna get rain like the day or even like the morning after you're gonna treat, it's almost no good because it'll just wash off. So we had to wait to treat, which is not the best option, but we were able to start localizing the damage. And what we did is we just came out here and we start flipping leaves over. And I would just look to see, I did do a treatment, so I probably don't have anything on here. But you never know, we may have a sneaker that got by. And I'm not seeing anything, but what I would do is I would come and I would flip the leaf, and you'll see them all around here. And I would just, here's one. Nope. And I would just crush them, right? Not a big deal. It's not the most pleasant job, but I will tell you that first line of defense is go ahead and wipe out what's on there, and you're starting that process. So we had a day of rain, came out, squished them. It was dry, then it rained again, and we were watching the forecast, came out, squished them again, and then we didn't have rain. So we were able to come out and we were able to treat. So I've got links to everything down below that will show you all of the stuff that we use to treat with, but I'll show you the bottle that I use. All season, we use this Thurgicide here, and really what you want is the BT. This is a natural occurring substance, and it fights caterpillars, worms, stuff like that. And then we mix it in this sprayer here. So this is I believe it's a 2-gallon sprayer. Yeah, 2-gallon sprayer. But we only mix about 1 gallon's worth in it, and that will treat the entire garden. All of these beds. I don't have my other 4 in action right now, but if I did, I would be able to treat all 11 beds, my peach trees, and my greenhouse with a 1-gallon treatment. The question is, why did I get a 2-gallon? Why not? It was like $3 more. You never know. And it worked out that way. So what I do is I treat them, I spray them down. You spray the tops, the bottoms of the leaves. It doesn't take too long. And then you come back a week later and you do it again. And then I come back a week later and then I do it one more time. And what that does is that's just kind of getting all of the eggs that have hatched out and stuff like that. Once you do the first one, it's not a big deal. It really knocks it back. The second one should wipe it clean, but the third one, it's done. The problem is they're persistent this time of year, and they're gonna come back. So you kind of almost got to get on like a regimen. And I really don't like treating unless I have to. So once I do my 3 treatments, I back off, and then I just watch and see, and we get them going. Now, what we have here is we've got plants that are severely damaged. That one that I keep showing you is severely damaged, but we have others that are not doing great, you know. This one's on its way, and I mean, it doesn't look terrible, but if you think about it, let's see, how many leaves do we have on here? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. We have 7 leaves, and 1, 2, 3 of them are excessively damaged. So almost 50% of the leaves on this plant are damaged, so that's not good. This leaf right here is not doing any good, so we'll just take it off. And you can see, look, there's one right there that didn't make it through the feeding. So that's good. That means that we're getting them. So we'll stay on top of it. The way the BT works too is it gets on the plant, the bug eats it, and then it damages their digestive tract, and they can't digest food, and then they die. So, you know, we just want to keep that on the plant. You don't want to do it in the middle of the day. I do it at the end of the day because everything's nice and dry. The sun's dried it out. There's no dew, so it doesn't get diluted or drip off when you put it on. And then that's it. I mean, you know, you just do that 3 times. Recovery is something that's really important for the garden. And, you know, like this plant right here, it needs to come back. And so if you start thinking about it, you're like, well, what can I do? Well, we can feed that plant. Nitrogen fuels leaf growth. That's the best thing we can do for this plant is feed it. So now that we've got a treatment down, it's been about a week, we're coming up on our 2nd treatment. We're gonna go ahead and feed the garden again, and then that will give everything a nice boost and give it a push. At the same time, we're watching the weather, and we're seeing how much colder it's gonna get. So we easily can get one more feeding of nitrogen liquid soluble fertilizer in the ground. We are more than likely going to be able to do 2 more, and then what that'll do is that'll just push that growth even more. So what you'll see is you'll come out there, because we're using a liquid water soluble organic nitrogen fertilizer. It's a whole mouthful, I'm telling you. But once that hits these plants, they will then in turn grow. And then we'll do it again, and you'll start seeing rapid growth in them, rebuilding and replenishing the leaves that have been damaged. So like for instance, this one right here that has over 50% of the leaves damaged, it's going to be a tough show for it, but we're not going to give up. It's not an option to give up on this, especially this time of year. There is no do-overs. This is it. What you see now in my garden is what we have in my garden. I can seed a little bit more, and I probably will, but we're so limited in what we can seed now that we really have to be careful about the pest damage, and we really need to stay on top of it. Now, I promised you I'd talk about snails, and slugs will fall right in line with that. A couple years ago, what I did is I came out here and I put thick wood mulch down, and it was terrible. I hated it. I will never do it again. But what it ended up doing, it caused a lot of problems. But the main problem was it made a place for the snails to really proliferate. And they would just hatch eggs after eggs after eggs. We had snails everywhere. You'd take your hand and you'd just flip over the mulch and there'd be nothing but snails underneath. So what I ended up doing, so the first step I did was I tried to trap them, didn't work. I ended up getting like a snail and slug bait. It's these little white pellets. I think it's called Sluggo. And I put it down, and that worked really good. But the problem is it's high in phosphorus. So what I ended up doing was just taking all of that wood mulch out of the beds completely and starting over, and that has helped. And it's taken me a couple years to reverse that damage as far as like the populations of the snails, but it is much further down. And what you do is you come out at night and you look at your plants and you will see the snails in your garden. If you've never come into your garden at night, you should definitely do it. It is a whole different world. You will see the pests, you will see all kinds of things in your garden that you're not used to. And I would do the same thing at first until I figured out what to do. I would come and I would hand pick every single snail. And it wasn't too bad because I really only had like 2 beds planted at the time. But now that we have all 7 beds planted here, and next year we're gonna have 11, and then we've got our greenhouse, it's too much to come out and pick them all at night. So, but at worst case scenario, just pick them. And slugs, same thing. Pick them out. They're icky and they're gross, but if you pick them out, drop them in some water or something like that, drop them in a cup and then destroy the cup, you will get on top of it because you're eliminating that population one at a time. And every one that you know, they're not like humans. I mean, look, well, worst case scenario, you have like quadruplets. When we have children, they have hundreds of eggs that lay. So each time you pull one out, you're eliminating a chance for more and more. So remember that when you go through and you see these pests, every one you get rid of is going to make a difference. And it doesn't have to be a reason for your garden to fail, because now you have the knowledge and you know the tools, which is BT and a sprayer. That's really all I use in my garden, and it's all organic. So give it a shot, try it out. And if you're buying it, make sure you get the concentrate and mix it yourself. You get way bigger bang for your buck. That bottle was probably $10, $15, and it's lasted me 2 years now. It will be done this year, but you can see it lasts a long time. And we have to, this time of year, from now until December, when it starts to get pretty cold, we will be treating constantly in our garden, it seems like, because we're just going to see more and more damage. So we got to stay on top of it. And that's how we ensure that we get a harvest out of our garden.